Hi, in this video, I'm going to look at successful places or not, as the case might be. Now, this lesson is going to be covered in two different videos, and this is the first one. We're going to look at why some places are economically more successful than others. In this video, we're going to look at the example of Sydney. Now, as you can see here, there's a link to a video, and on your Google Classroom, you will have a list of videos I want you to watch as we're going through this video. So the best thing to do now is just to stop this video, go to Google Classroom, click on the link for the Sydney video, and that gives you a bit of an indication or a bit of an idea what Sydney is all about, in case you've never been there. Okay, so hopefully you've now watched the video, and what we're going to do now is look at some of the reasons why Sydney is economically successful. Now, a good way to, obviously you have to make notes as you go along, but a good thing to do is create some kind of spider diagram for this. The reason is that will come back in one of the tasks you have to do later on. So make a spider diagram. You probably need your whole page, A4 page, for that. So reasons why Sydney is economically successful. So the first thing to think about is it's not an island. It's actually part of a region, the southeast coast of Australia, that's very successful economically. The population is obviously it's a large city. It's Australia's largest city, about 4.8 million people in 2015. Lots of immigration. Lots of people move to Sydney, as about now 1.5 million of Sydney's residents are actually born outside of Australia. Also means that it's very multicultural. Lots of different languages spoken. And obviously you can sense the similarities here with London as well. There's also a large proportion of very high income jobs in the knowledge economy. So Sydney has a very strong quaternary sector, and the overall gross regional products is same as gross domestic product, but then obviously in this case just for the region is quite substantial at $337 billion in 2013. It is also the leading financial center for the Asia Pacific region. So we're talking about anywhere else in Asia, Oceania, and the Pacific. We therefore see a lot of overseas owned banks and TNCs located there. In also a lot of Australia's large companies, more than half the 500 biggest are located there. So think about companies like Qantas, the airline, and Westfield, owners of Westfield Shopping Centre. The number of businesses in Sydney is also very, very high. So obviously you talk about very small businesses and a very large one. So as you can see, about 450,000 businesses in 2011. More reasons why Sydney is economically successful. The population. So it has a very young, economically active workforce, with a median age of 36, which is lower than here in the UK, which is 41. It does pull in a lot of young, skilled people away from more remote rural areas in Australia. Those areas are also known as the outback in Australia. And obviously those areas are very much in decline now as a result. Levels of deprivation are very low. Employment levels are generally high with above average incomes. Also think about most of the knowledge economy businesses are what we are calling footloose. Footloose means that they are not really tied to a particular place because they need to get particular raw materials or inputs. They can actually locate absolutely anywhere. And therefore businesses have sort of different reasons why they want to place themselves in certain places. So Sydney is very popular with Footloose companies because things that these businesses are interested in are things like the climate, the environment, beaches, harbour. That's all things you can find in Sydney. The other advantage for Sydney, where it is located, is it's able to do trade with both the United States and Europe. Obviously, there's a time zone, but it's still possible for investment banks to do business trading with both the United States and Europe. What has also been very important is that Australia's national government have really embraced globalization since 1985. So one of the things they did was deregulating banking and finance. So various overseas banks were able to open offices in Australia, and they also focused on attracting well-qualified professionals. So the migration policy, which is very often quoted by the UK government as a type of migration policy that the UK should also adopt, because the Australians have always been focusing very much on qualified professionals they need. A couple of things I got from the textbook here on the left hand side. You can see the CBD, so the Central Business District of Sydney, with lots of TNCs there, located right next to Darling Harbour waterfront. So obviously it's a very pleasant environment to work in. So lots of different banks are based there. Also the living conditions, it's really in the sort of sun belt of the world. It's one of those, it's not only in Sydney but also other cities in especially in the United States have also grown quite substantially because of the climate. What are some of the implications of Sydney's success? One of the things is that the average income is very high in Sydney, so it's one of the highest of any city in the world. But that also makes it very expensive to live there. So the average income is much higher than the UK. Average salaries are there about £40,000. Here it's about 26, I think. Also very high demand for housing, makes it very expensive to live in as well. It depends on the survey. It's anywhere between the 5th and the 15th most expensive city to live in. On the other hand, it also is quite well known for its high quality of life. So it ranks 10th in the world for that. And also the Sydney residents have very high purchasing power as well. So, you know, the number of things they can buy with their income is very high. Okay, so finally, some of the tasks for you to do on this first part of the lesson. So first of all, I mentioned the spider diagram. So your first task is draw a spider diagram, but if you've done that, can you also look at the reasons and give them different classifications? So are there economic reasons, are there social reasons, are there environmental reasons, or are there political reasons? The second task is to summarize Sydney's economic success and its possible future using what's called a SWOT analysis. Now, SWOT analysis is what you do there is you look at the economic success, possible future of Sydney as a place in which to live and work, in terms of what strengths does Sydney have at the moment for work and living. What are the weaknesses? What are the kind of things that makes it less of a good place in which to live and work? What are the further opportunities there? What kind of things that could support it, and what are the potential threats to that? So have a go at that. SWOT analysis is something that is done quite often to look at an issue and to analyze that issue. And then finally, what I would like you to do is answer this 8 marker. Explain the reasons for the economic success of one place you've studied. Obviously, yeah, we just covered one. This is an 8 marker. Basically, the big difference between an 8 marker is and a 6 marker is that it requires you to write a little bit more depth. You may yeah, put in a little bit more detail in your answer compared to a 6 marker. What I'll do is put not so much number 1 number 2, but number 3, the last question. I will put that on a Google Doc for you to answer. Okay, so after you work through this one, this video and the task, you can move on to the second video.